Welcome to the only YouTube channel dedicated to helping people quit nicotine, THC, energy drinks, and adult media content, substances I once struggled with. In today's video, I want to take some time and talk about the different types of tolerances that develop from smoking weed, particularly with weed addiction. If you enjoy the content in today's video, be sure to check out the pinned comment or the video description for more free and paid informational resources regarding our programs. Tolerance number one is a tolerance for success. And I want to be very careful how I explain this. I went to school, and for those of you who don't know, I have a doctorate in chiropractic. That degree required 4 years of undergraduate in biology and then 3.5 years to obtain the doctorate portion in chiropractic care. School, irrelevant of the jokes and comments people want to make about chiropractic care, was very, very challenging. And to an extent, I would say that smoking weed allowed me to tolerate some of those challenges, some of those academic challenges. Board exams were a 4-part examination spread out over the course of several years. You had to tolerate all the politics and the BS that come with a doctoral program, all that stuff. And to some small extent, I thought weed allowed me to tolerate school. I could also say the same thing for work. When I first graduated, I was working quite a bit at building my own business, which is now relatively successful. And that was gruesome. I mean, starting a business from scratch and growing it to something was a very challenging, very hard, very stressful process. And weed, in a sense, allowed me to tolerate a lot of that stress, a lot of that pressure, right? I had a lot of friends who I graduated with who said they were going to build a business from scratch, and many of them failed terribly, and they wound up having to go work for someone else or go into a job that they really didn't want to go into. So it's funny, although I knew I was struggling with weed addiction, I would pause and I would say, well, Frank, so-and-so didn't get a doctorate. So-and-so isn't working for themselves. They didn't build their own business. So-and-so isn't generating an income for themselves like you are. You must be doing something right, and they must be doing something wrong. And what I thought I was doing right, at least, was smoking weed, using nicotine, drinking, binge drinking on the weekends, just to try and tolerate all the stress that I was constantly under from whether it had been school or building a business. Now, this is where it gets really dicey, though. Once you achieve that goal, once you graduate from school, once you build that business, the goal has been obtained, right? You achieve success. The business is up and running. You got through the tough part. You got through the first few years. But the addiction remains. So here's everything that you worked for. You got through board exams. You got your medical degree. You got your law degree. You got your CPA degree. You started a company. It's a successful company. You're making a lot of money now. But the addiction remains. All of this stuff is behind us, but the addiction remains. If you're stuck in this cycle and you're building something, you're trying to get through something hard, something challenging, and you're using weed or alcohol or another drug to tolerate that level of stress, what are you doing it for? Because what it turned out for me as time went on, I was simply creating more space, more time, and more money to give to my addiction. So I thought I was going into business for myself to reclaim my time, to become financially stable, to have freedom, right? Freedom, independence. But no, all that happened, the more time I had, the more money I had, the more I partied, the more addicted I got, the more weed I smoked. What was the purpose of going through all of those challenges, all of those struggles, if I was just going to wind up feeding my addiction more? Why did I bother going through that? What was it all for? If I'm going to take time, I spoke to a gentleman once. His income, $30 million a year. This was the wealthiest person I have ever consulted with in my life. Raging alcoholic. On his deathbed from alcohol because his heart had become so damaged. Okay? For what? What was the point in all that stress? What was the point in that income if you can't take the time to enjoy the fruits of your labor? Because I promise you, addiction will be the thing that's enjoying the fruits of your labor, not you. And there's a lot of people stuck in this cycle, and I hope you reach out for help, or I hope you find the help that you need. Now, tolerance number 2 that I think is equally dangerous is what I refer to as the BS tolerance, right? The bullshit tolerance. Now, this is people say, well, I smoke because I'm bored. I smoke because I hate my job. I smoke because I'm depressed. I smoke because I have no money. I smoke because I'm anxious. I can't sleep at all because of the anxiety. I worked numerous different jobs, especially while I was building my business. And some of them I really didn't like, right? They were minimum wage jobs. The hours were outrageous. Sometimes I was starting at 3 a.m. in the morning and working until 10 p.m. at night when I was in the personal training field. I used to do personal fitness training before I got into all these other things. And I was so frustrated. I was so frustrated with where I was at in life. As a 25, 26, 27-year-old male with a doctorate, I was angry. I was upset. But instead of doing something about it, I would go home and I would smoke weed. And I would say, I'm depressed, so I smoke weed. I'm anxious, so I smoke weed. I don't have any money. Now I'm winding up in a bad situation because my business started to struggle along the way. And I'm actually to a point where I'm moving back in with family. I'm bored. I have nothing going for myself. Weed allowed me to tolerate all of these negative things in my life that were happening. It made me content with the boredom. It made me content with the depression. It made me content with working the job and the hours that I didn't want to be working anymore. And you could apply this on a larger scale. This could be you already have a multi-million-dollar business and you want it to be a billion-dollar business and you know you're capable of it. But suddenly you've become content with the million-dollar business. Weed made me content with things in my life that I was not comfortable with, that I was not happy about. And I wasn't willing to put in the time, the energy, and the effort to change the job, to seek out activities to not be bored, to pursue things, to put money in my bank account until I quit smoking weed. So you might be at a point in your life where you're tolerating a lot of BS and a lot of failure, and you're tolerating it because you're under the facade, you're under the comfort that weed smoke provides, and that might truly be holding you back. These are two very different scenarios that I just described. In scenario number 2, you are become content without potential. So this is where I'm not going to achieve anything. I'm not going anywhere. It's not going to work out. Life is unfair. I might as well just get high. And this is where you have no potential. Your potential's dead. The ambition's dead. The motivation's gone. Scenario number 1 that I described, where you've used weed and you've built a successful life for yourself, you never hit your potential. This is where you are going to always fall short of what you know you're capable of. And I would argue that this one is actually more painful than this one, because when you know you're capable of more, and when you know there's the thing that's holding you back is the drug or the alcohol or the pill or whatever it is, this one hurts more, in my opinion. So those are the two types of tolerances. I experienced both throughout my lifetime, and I have a feeling a lot of people watching this video can probably relate to those things. Then we have, of course, the tolerance that develops with addiction. This is where we're consuming more and more of the drug to wind up getting the same exact results. Here I am smoking dry herb, smoking weed, chewing tobacco, vaping, watching adult media content, just pounding dopamine down, trying to cope with this disaster that's going on in my life, this situation that I'm not happy with. And now I'm consuming more of the drug to get the exact same results over and over and over again, which is funny because, in business, if I put in more time, more effort, if I make more YouTube videos, I get a return on my investment. We do more one-on-one coaching. We sell out another program. We reinvest that money into a product or into another business. But this, more weed, more drugs, more of my time, more of my energy, more of the same depressing results. Very, very, very bad place to be in. It's funny when you think about it. Consuming more of something, building a tolerance, and getting the exact same results. Now, here's the thing. At the end of the day, you're not alone. There's thousands of people out there struggling with addiction, whether it's to weed, alcohol, nicotine, pills, whatever it may be. There's very successful people out there, entrepreneurs, business people, people with professional license. And then there's people who are still trying to get off their feet. They're working that first-time job. They're working that part-time job. They're working that minimum wage job, who want more, who want to make a change. No matter what scenario you are in, you are not alone. Consider joining our Addiction Mindset accountability community. Consider booking a one-on-one call, a coaching call to walk through some of this stuff. Download the free guide. I made a free 80-page guide on quitting smoking weed that walks you through step-by-step how to quit. I also made free guides on my foundational pillars of recovery, and then I made an abbreviated 7-step guide to quitting smoking weed. Do something. Don't just watch this video. Go smoke weed and become content with tolerating whatever situation it is in your life that you're not happy with. Addiction takes a lot from a person. And maybe today's the day that you're going to stop that toxic cycle. Maybe today's the day you're going to break it. If you don't want to download stuff, if you don't want to do one-on-one coaching, if you don't want to join our group for $4 a month, $5 a month, follow me into the next video where I talk a little bit more about how to quit smoking weed.